As we speak, 2 of California's refineries are in the process of being shut down. Valero is shutting down their Benicia refinery. They've said they're going to do it in April, but they've moved that up to January of 2026. And as I'm recording, as you're watching this, the Phillips 66 refinery is being idled. Not shut down, not ceased operations yet. But by the end of the year, it's supposed to be closed, having a massive, massive impact on California's oil refinery ability. But the big thing I want to talk about today is Valero is willing to write down $1.1 billion. Just say, boop, close it. Instead of trying to sell it, trying to do anything, they're willing to take $1 billion loss so that they don't have to deal with California's nonsensical oil regulations. Let's get into it. Here we go. So what you're seeing in the media right now is you're seeing more and more stories kind of come online with, hey, they're closing those refineries down. And you're seeing stories like, oh, we've gone from 40-something refineries. We're on our way to 11. And even stories like that I've covered. Hey, if you have a major national threat, the West Coast is going to be completely exposed because we don't have enough gas lines here in Washington State and Oregon to cover ourselves. We've got one Olympic pipeline that kind of covers the whole region. And California is basically, constricted its own ability to refine the oil necessary to run all the jets that you'd need to cover the West Coast. We would be completely exposed. So as these refineries get into these kind of final processes of either being idled because they're going to be closed down or just flat shut down like Valero and taking a $1.1 billion loss, there's more and more cringe. People are cringing. Not only Californians, but you've got people in Arizona. You've got people in Nevada that are like, oh, what's this going to do? Well, when you reduce that supply, you constrict that supply, it's not going to be good. Not going to be good. Valero's $1.1 billion Benicia refinery exit by April of 2026, and they're saying they're going to move that up. Driven by Newsom's regulations, threatens 8.6% of California's gasoline supply, job losses, and $1.21 per gallon hikes. Okay, we don't know exactly how this is going to impact. Gas prices have been dropping considerably, right, around the United States. Not here in Washington State, though. We're still at like $4.70 a gallon. California dropped a little bit, but they're still in the 4s. They're not in the 3s. Economists warn of shortages and $8 spikes amid Phillips 66 parallel closure. $8 spikes. Is it going to spike up to $8? Somewhere between $8 and $12, I think was the Mish study from USC, something like that. I mean, something's going to happen because between these 2 refineries that we're talking about, it is 17.5% of California's refinery capability. So I know you see in all the news stories that, well, it's 20%. They're rounding up because it's more dramatic, right? Hey, 20%. Oh, it's only 17. Not worry about that. It's all systems go. California's energy sector reeling from Valero Energy Corp's decision to shutter its refinery by April 2026, and $1 billion write-down rather than navigate Governor Gavin Newsom's escalating mandates, citing prohibitive costs and regulatory pressures. So this right here is going to be one of those topics that you're going to see that when he runs for president, people are just going to go in on because there's no defending this. This is literally policy driven internally, and it's on California. They've done this because they want their own special blend of gasoline that's supposed to be so much cleaner. And in doing so, they've put themselves in a position where they're having to import from Ecuador. They're having to import from Saudi Arabia. They're having to import from Brazil. You know what I mean? And it's just insanity because they're thinking, oh, we're so green. We're so green. Benicia facility, that's what we're talking about here, is the $1.1 billion write-down. Processes 145,000 barrels a day. So the Benicia facility that we're talking about processes 145,000 barrels. And when this story came out in April of 2025, you had people like we're talking about here, city manager Mario Giuliani expressing shock. I would have been more prepared for a sale. I'm surprised that they're suggesting a complete closure and seizing operations. Let's see what that looks like.
City officials and small businesses are trying to remain optimistic after today's surprise announcement from oil giant Valero Energy. The closure of the Benicia refinery would be a loss of millions of dollars annually in revenue for this small town.
ABC 7 News reporter Ansar Hassan has more on the potential impact of the closure.
For a quarter century, the Valero refinery has been an economic power.
I want you to focus on how the media, this is from last April when the story first broke. I want you to focus on how the media spins this as, oh my gosh, big corporate, big oil is just absolutely tanking this city, which it will have a significant impact. But it's going to have a significant impact on all of California. It's going to have an impact on Arizona. It's going to have an impact on Nevada. And if we have any kind of war, fingers crossed, we don't. It's going to have an impact on the entire West Coast. We won't be able to have supply to run all the military equipment, primarily the jets that we need. So what you're seeing here is, poor Benicia, which I get. This is going to suck for that small town because it's such a big employer. But what you got to consider is that this has been decades and decades of California doing this to themselves. Just pulling out that gun and shooting themselves in the foot because they don't want oil. They don't want oil being dependent upon oil for their economy. They want all this green nonsense, which isn't there. You're not there yet. So mainstream media just goes down this one road. And that's kind of the contrast to Valero saying, yeah, we might generate 133 billion or whatever a year, but we're willing to take $1 billion of that and just say, boop, done. We don't need it. We don't need the headache. We don't, you guys have pushed us out of business in that market. We're done. Bye-bye.
Powerhouse for the city of Benicia. But on Wednesday came a surprise announcement that it may close next April.
I would have been more prepared for a sale. I am surprised that they're suggesting a complete closure and ceasing operations. That is definitely surprising and distressing news that we heard today.
City manager Mario Giuliani says Valero generates millions of dollars in revenue, which are vital for this small town. But Valero made it known for some time its frustration and concerns with the high costs and strict environmental regulations in California. Giuliani says discussions are underway with state officials and Valero about what comes next.
It is the newest refinery on the West Coast. It produces a significant amount of gasoline for the California market. I cannot foresee a possibility where that refinery just ceases operation altogether.
In a statement,
right? I mean, this guy is right on the front end of that, right? And he's like, man, I do not see this happening. Is Valero playing chicken? Is that what they're doing? They're idling the plant right now, mid-December. It's idled. It's been idled before they shut it down. They got to go through this multi-process system. You can't just all of a sudden, all right, boys, flipping the switch, out everything goes. It's got to go through a bunch of sequential steps. But you can see this. You can see leadership in California just going, what is going on? And it's because Valero is willing to basically just rid itself of the California hassle. And they're basically stating, yeah, you guys have pushed us far enough. We'll take our toys, we'll take our equipment, we'll go elsewhere and we'll make money. We don't have to deal with your nonsense. Meanwhile, it literally takes out, 8.5% of the oil production and the refinery production of California. And that's why this is such an ongoing, what is happening here type story. As Gavin Newsom gets, closer and closer every day to announcing he's going to run for president. And this is the kind of stuff that should prevent him from becoming president, because there's no way to get around that California's policies have created this very story.
To ABC 7 News, Valero confirmed that it submitted a notice to the California Energy Commission of its current intent to idle, restructure, or cease refining operations at Valero's Benicia refinery by the end of April 2026. California Governor Gavin Newsom responding to the news at a press conference earlier in the day.
Beginning last night,
Look at these guys. Do you trust either of these guys? I mean, really?
at all hands, and we're in the process of addressing any anxiety that may be created or any market disruption that may be created by that announcement.
Anxiety? You're taking down almost 10% of your production, and you're concerned about anxiety. So what are you going to do? What have you offered, Podcaster Newsom, to Big Oil as a compromise here? Nothing. You know what California did? They got their California Energy Commission. They got those guys scrambling around. Hey, can you guys find a buyer? Literally, could you guys find a buyer for a slightly used refinery in California? Not working out. It's not working out. Because Valero just said, no, closing her down.
Giuliani says news of Valero's possible departure will impact the city's budget process for next year, which begins in May. In addition to possible loss of jobs and revenue, is the impact on the city at large.
I think it would be a major hit on the city. I think it would very much look like Mare Island closing in Vallejo, and I am worried that the city of Benicia would eventually become the same.
Brittany Hodgkinson manages 𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧 Cantina.
They're just gonna go into more local stories and talk about, this is terrible. It's like Starbucks closing in Seattle. Yes, it's terrible, but why is it closing these stores? Well, because of internal policy that you've created. You took, typical wages, $15-16 an hour minimum wage, and you jumped it up to 25, and then you wonder why Starbucks can't keep those stores open. You know what I mean? Or you allow shoplifting to just happen, carte blanche. Just, hey, let it go on. We've got Washington state policy, soft on crime policy, absolutely impacting the heck out of, and I'm pointing to a QFC grocery store owned by Kroger, just a few miles from where I'm sitting, the Northeast 8th and 156 store. If you're local, you've been following Jonathan Cho. He's been doing story after story on known serial shoplifters coming to that QFC, stealing grocery carts of groceries, and then taking them down to 12th and Jackson in the International District in Seattle. It's really super close to the park that I've shown you a whole bunch of times, Dr. Jose Rizal Park with Andrea Suarez. And they're taking those groceries there and selling them on the sidewalk because it's an open air market, because you don't have a judicial system that is targeting shoplifters. And even if you do arrest them, judicial system here is just letting people go. It's good. It's okay. It's all right. And then they wonder why are the stores closing? Why is the refinery closing? Because of just California's fined the heck out of them. All this environmental nonsense, over-regulation, saying that they're profit-taking, saying that they're, all this stuff. California's put the reserve policy in place so that when a refinery goes down, there's all kinds of reserves that the oil companies have to basically take the cost on that, so that it evens out the supply, so Californians don't get hit with the cost spike. But unfortunately, that's just kind of business. And with as many refineries as closed, each one that closes from here on out subsequently has more and more of an impact, because all of a sudden people are like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Well, you're looking at it, right? You are absolutely looking at it. So as we get closer and closer to this actually happening, and I might have flipped earlier which plant is closing, between the Wilmington, which is outside of Los Angeles, and the Valero's Benicia, which is more San Francisco, south end of the bay there. You're seeing more and more of this. Republican lawmakers are calling it an affordability and national security crisis. But you know what we're not hearing much from? I Google these stories every day to see if there's an update. There is not much of an update from California leadership. And it's because it's like Meadow Leo down in San Francisco, and all the malls closed. That's literally what's happening. You're closing these bad boys. And this has been ongoing. Like I said, these are not just too recent. Oh my gosh, this is happening. This has been happening for decades. And this is the end result. You've got, you do have a crisis on your hands that could be avoided. This could totally be avoided. And yet, because of California's leadership position, this is what they want to do. It's like, what is wrong with you? What exactly is wrong with you that you are so hell-bent on trying to project this image of how, leading edge on the climate control issues California is, that you're literally creating a regressive tax on your ever increasing population that lives below poverty and your middle class population, because this is a regressive tax. Everybody needs gasoline for their vehicles to get to work, right? And then, like in Los Angeles, where you've got multi-hour commutes, you're going to be using more gas. Gas goes to $8 a gallon. Tell me there isn't going to be some, kickback from that. Gasoline goes to $12 a gallon. Oof. Yeah. I mean, that'd be some of the more expensive gasoline around, right? $12 a gallon. And that is the upper end of what's going to happen if we have any disruptions. If we have one more of these refineries that needs to do a little maintenance break, and you've got two more of these that have closed down, one's being idled right now and the other being closed in April or January, kind of depending on where you see in the media. So, Vince Fong, we have an energy crisis in our state, and it looks like it's only going to intensify. 100%. I don't see any other way to avoid this than what we're talking about. There's no, I mean, is Valero just going to come out one day and say, you know what? We're not going to close it down. We've relooked at the books. We've kind of rethought, we've repositioned, we've reimagined, what we're going to be doing here. And we've figured a way out. I don't think so. I think they're so sick and tired of dealing with California leadership and all the ridiculous virtue signaling, because even President Biden last year, I think it was his last State of the Union address, he said that we're going to be dependent upon oil for another decade. And you're like, what is wrong with you? How are you so short-sighted? Is the very nice word. Yeah. Back in the day, you'd say mentally retarded, but I'm going to go with short-sighted, or inability to really kind of look around and go, hey, there is no chance in hell that we're getting off oil for decades. One of the shows I've been watching is Landman, because it's epic. Billy Bob Thornton. I mean, and now you got Sam Elliott. I mean, it's a great show. It really is. And it's got a host of characters that are great. But in the last episode, in the newest episode, which came out last weekend, they're coming out every Saturday night here on the West Coast, Sunday on the East Coast. They ripped on The View. Billy Bob Thornton just tore into The View, compared it to a fart in church. Yeah. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny stuff. But that show, I have heard, depicts a lot of what's going on, with oil prices. Keep that the barrel yield at like $78. That's the magic spot. And, there's so much that is dependent upon these oil stories, because everything we use has oil in it, except California doesn't seem to care, doesn't understand, if they don't care. And they're not really throwing out any alternatives here. There are no alternatives here. And the reason for that is because it's like Kind of like the cost to construct housing in so many West Coast markets is already baked in, so expensive. Yesterday, I did a podcast on City of Sacramento. Per lot, their fees, mitigation fees, building permit fees, all those associated fees before you break ground on your piece of dirt. You buy your dirt for $300, and then in Sacramento, and I'm just throwing out numbers, in Sacramento, you've got $109,000 in fees, just fees before you get going. So you're at $409 before you get going. How are you ever going to build any affordable housing? You're not. You're just not. It's not happening. Same thing with what are you going to do here with the oil industry in California? You've got years and years and years and years of layers of just absolute nonsense and fines and just basically telling the oil industry, you are Satan. You are Satan. You live in hell. We don't want anything to do with you because we're so clean. We're so clean. We're so virtue signaling here clean. And the oil companies, they are businesses and they just say, go screw yourself, closed. And that's literally what we're witnessing. And what you're hearing from the Democrat side of things is basically crickets. Like, oh, this isn't going to be good. And they are just praying the cost of oil goes down. Now we got a little thing going on with Venezuela supplies, right? How's that going? Not great. Not great at all, right? Yeah, will that impact things? I have to wait and see. But what you've got going on here in California is it's happening. It's happening in real time. And we will know within a few months here when both of these plants finally go down, they go dark, which it looks like there's no way they're not going to. What's that going to do? I mean, what impact is that going to have? I mean, it's going to have not only on the little communities that we're talking about, smaller, Benicia and Wilmington, is it the other one? Outside of LA? You know, what kind of impact is it going to have on not only West Coast, but also the United States? Because all this stuff is interrelated, right? Because California creates so many goods and oil is in so many of them. So many of them. It's crazy. So this story here, it's got legs for days, right? I mean, this is just going to keep on going because we're going to start to see the impacts then. Hey, gas prices going up even higher in California. Who knew? So make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell. I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks again for joining. We'll catch up soon. Bye for now.